All right, welcome to the Two Sons Podcast. Happy Monday, everybody. It's been about a week and a half since we've done a show, but our game plan for the next couple of weeks is we're going to do today we're going to talk a little bit about Andor in the grand scheme of things, and then we're going to, Luke specifically has a take about Luke Skywalker, Luke's Luke take.
Yes.
So the second half of the show is going to be Luke's Luke take. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then he did just finally finish the second book of the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, which we were just chatting a tiny bit about, but we want to save it because we're going to do that next week. I have already finished the third Thrawn Ascendancy book, which may or may not be the best Star Wars book I've ever read.
Of all time.
It's so good. And then I'm kind of enjoying like the audiobook as like a distance from basketball.
Right.
So I've listened to a lot fewer basketball podcasts, and I'm just circling back to do the original Thrawn trilogy. The reason why is I wanted to kind of like watch that in the context of what happened before.
What do you mean by that? No, what do you mean by that?
So the timing is backwards. Like,
for the
Thrawn
Ascendancy
trilogy is the original trilogy,
right?
And then the Ascendancy trilogy is like a prequel.
Him leading into the Thrawn trilogy, yeah. But the Thrawn trilogy was released first, correct?
Yes, from what I understand, the Ascendancy trilogy came out after.
That's what I understand too.
Yes,
because it is confusing because there's like we just know Thrawn already, like through the original series, right? And then seeing the making of Thrawn is really interesting. But then I like your take on rereading that, just because we know him as such a more powerful character and just so incredibly intelligent and confident and.
Well, yeah. I think for you personally, like when you actually finish the third Ascendancy book, you're gonna want to listen to him again.
That's what it seems
now,
like.
we may not have the time for that, but like at the very least, I'm ripping through it again, and like I'll just kind of take notes when I see things that kind of call back to the Ascendancy, and then we can get into it there. Because I actually want to go into other books. Like I really want to redo Plagueis.
Yeah,
I really want to redo the Bane. I think doing the Bane trilogy on this pod would be super cool.
That would be awesome. And I wonder if they have the audiobook version. Which, by the way, we are dropping some space bones on audiobooks. They are going up in price.
They were like $20 a piece.
I know.
And we've done 6 of them for Thrawn and 3 of them
I'm like
for
spending hundreds of dollars on Star Wars books.
We did it for all the High Republic books too, I think, except for the first one. So I've spent probably $200 this year on audiobooks.
I know, dude.
They have us by the short hairs.
I know.
But it's worth every penny, man.
It is. They're so well done. Like they have music in the background and sound effects and when R2-D2's around, like you can hear him and stuff. It's just like it's the coolest thing in the world.
It's extremely well done. And the dude who's done it, Mark Thompson, I think is his name.
Mark Thompson.
He's done every one of them, the Thrawn books and all of the High Republic books we've read. And he has a gift for. I'm pretty sure he changes voices. That's him that does all of it.
I think it is because 99% of the voices are sweet. They're awesome. Padme.
There's some bad ones in there. Okay?
Yeah,
anything that's a young female, it's like I won't even do it.
Don't even do it.
Whatever I do won't even do it justice.
Jay, don't even get into that because that will be on the internet for forever. You are so smart for not doing that, my man.
Anyway,
I almost yelled in this microphone so people couldn't hear you.
Anyway,
his Thrawn voice is incredible. Like he is Thrawn. Does he actually do Thrawn in Rebels?
I don't think so. There are some slight differences,
but
you know it's possible though because when I went back to listen to the I'm in the first of the original Thrawn books now. His voice sounds a little different than it did in the Ascendancy trilogy.
Oh, really?
So I think his voice is kind of refined over the years.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, the reality. I was literally thinking the other day, like who would make a good Thrawn live action, and I can't even really think of
so
one.
Hard.
It'd be extremely difficult to do.
It would be
because it is kind of an action part too. Like Thrawn is like a physical fighter, dude.
Yeah, he can throw some blows, and
exactly.
He's definitely got some athleticism going on. He's not just all brains.
Exactly, and so I want to anyway. I want to do a bunch of other audiobooks and rip through them on the show, but I was like, while I'm waiting for you to finish the Ascendancy trilogy, I'm just going to rip through the original one again and see if I can find some more talking points.
This is Jason and I spending 5 to 8 minutes telling you guys about how we're not going to do Thrawn in this episode.
Actually, Thrawn will be brought up in this episode again, so just fair warning, there will be more Thrawn. Anyway, you guys
really quick. Sorry.
Let's hear it.
Top 5 favorite characters is Bane and Thrawn. Are they in your top 5?
Easily. Yeah, I would
too.
say Bane and Thrawn. I really enjoyed Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Legendary for me.
Yep.
This is tough. One day we got to do this.
Yeah, I'm like struggling thinking who
Star Wars characters.
Yeah, that's a great topic. No, like I would struggle to pick my 5. I really would. I could pick 5 droids, super quickly, but top 5 Star Wars characters that you're like married to. These are my top 5 characters, especially because I would be pressed to have some like lesser known characters in there.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, and that would be hard because like I feel like I don't even know them, and they're still some of my favorites.
Oh, well, like some of the you've just in Andor, and that was actually one of the questions I had. But let's go ahead and get started on Andor. So you guys know the drill before we get started. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you guys don't miss any more of our videos. Excuse me, and then follow us on all of our social media feeds. I've got a little link underneath the YouTube video and underneath the podcast that will take you to all of our social media feeds. So my first question as it pertains to Andor, how do you feel about that first season? Do you have any larger scale takes, or are you kind of like everything we've gone over in the past, you feel pretty good about it? Because I do want to look a lot forward. Because I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff to get into there. Mm-hmm. But did you have any like grand take from Andor? Did you appreciate what it contributed to the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, I think it contributed greatly to the Star Wars universe, and we mentioned this a little bit, and I still have the same take, which is Andor was gritty, and I loved that. Like, being part of a rebellion is dirty. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to do some things that are very uncomfortable. You might have to do some things that, you might not even feel are morally correct. And I think it's cool that Star Wars is leaning into that. Mm-hmm. And it was neat to see. It's like growing up with Star Wars, it's very like clean cut. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. And then throughout time, Star Wars has gotten more dirty, where like you start to feel empathy almost for the side of what's considered like the dark side. Like you start to understand characters like Darth Bane and why he does things. And then even now you start to understand characters like Cassian, where he did some pretty gnarly stuff. Like he killed a lot of people throughout his lifetime. And that's pretty intense.
He starts Rogue One by just offing somebody in an alleyway.
Yeah, and it was an ally. Right. So I loved how gritty it was. I hope that Star Wars runs with that, because they're doing an awesome thing where they're doing like kids shows where I'd feel comfortable like plopping a kid in front of a TV and having them watch something. And then there's stuff that's more entertaining for you and I, where it's a little bit more intense. So I thought it added a lot, not just for the Star Wars universe, but also just for like viewing pleasure for its fans.
I think it kind of sets up to be very similar to basically what a live action Rebels was.
Yeah.
It's funny because Rebels was trapped in similar confines to this show, where it's like you can't get too grand scheme because, starting with the Battle of Yavin, that's where like the actual galactic civil war starts. And Rebels essentially is from the moment that Kanan meets Ezra all the way through to the Battle of Scarif, up against that, right? Like that's kind of what it entails, and yet there's still plenty to get into there. That's very interesting. And so I was doing some reading earlier today, and the director from Andor said that season 2 will be the last season.
Oh, wow.
So it's only a 2-season show. Will be 12 episodes though.
Okay.
And essentially there are 4 years that he wants to cover from between when the season 1 ends and when the Rogue One begins.
That makes sense.
And so they're going to skip forward a year, and there's going to be like a
Thrawn.
Just Thrawn.
It's going to be a story about Thrawn.
So we're going to get there. So they're going to cover like a few days. And then they're going to skip forward a year again, and then they're going to cover
like Game of Thrones.
And then they're going to skip. Yeah, it's going to be very similar to the Game of Thrones.
Are they just going to completely recast everybody the entire time?
I hope not.
I hope not.
But so he did say that everyone was going to survive, including Andy Serkis's character, which is the guy who was the prison leader.
Oh, that's cool.
That
was one of our questions, right?
Yes, who's also known as Future Snoke. I'm just kidding.
Oh anyway. Yeah, okay, yeah, because he's the same character. Okay, yeah, same actor. Okay,
exactly. So, so with that in mind, I kind of think of it as like as essentially a Rebels live action. Like it's going to jump around a lot.
I'm so down for that.
It's going to be a little bit kind of mission focused, and that he did kind of say
I'm
that
down
like,
for
it's going to
that.
cover specific Cassian missions. We can assume that Cassian's going to eventually come into contact with Mon Mothma.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would imagine this was my next question is like, obviously we're going to talk about Thrawn in a second, but do you see any other potential cameos from anybody in season 2?
I really hope they touch into Phoenix Squadron.
I think that would be really cool.
If they didn't, I think it would be a missed opportunity. I don't think it's going to be a huge cameo. Well, actually, I take that back. If they lean into what is Thrawn and the Grisk, I think they'd almost have to pull in Ezra as well.
Oh, I think Ezra will inevitably get pulled in at some point. So
I hope so bad, because that would be such a cool way for them to like throw a bone to like true Star Wars fans. But then I think Ezra would be a really good character for just casual Star Wars fans to get to know as well, right?
Absolutely.
Like a young up and coming Force user, not quite a Jedi.
An excuse to throw a lightsaber in there.
Yeah, like and then not only that, he's got a compelling story, right? Like he lost his parents, like he's essentially an orphan, and he's fighting for a good cause. I think it's just a cool storyline that I think they could run with for sure.
So the framework that I use is as like the case for why you would see cameos from people like there's low hanging fruit that Disney will inevitably tap into. I would not be shocked at all if we saw, you know, Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, or if we see Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. I'm blanking. But those are the low-hanging fruit ones that you could see Disney forcing in there. But Ezra, I thought a lot about Kanan. Anybody from Phoenix Squadron would be an easy shoe-in.
Right.
The reason why I see Phoenix Squadron and Thrawn as almost a must is we got to put a couple of puzzle pieces together here. So for starters, who is in charge of the ISB? Wolf Yularen.
Right.
Wolf Yularen is close friends with Grand Admiral Thrawn, so much so that he told Thrawn to his face, if you ever got kicked out of the Navy for whatever reason, I'd want you to come work for me.
Right.
Okay. So we also know that when that Admiral Constantine was in charge of the Lothal Rebellion, and when he failed, Governor Price asked for them to bring the 7th Fleet in, which was basically the top tier fleet to deal with rebel incursions, and that's when Thrawn gets involved. So presumably Luthen and Mon Mothma and Cassian are going to be much higher
players
on this list than just
even the Phoenix Squadron, because they were doing like really basic low level rebel stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, also, what is Luthen and Mon Mothma's primary goal in season 1?
That's a good question. So, man,
what was the original thing they were funding?
What do you mean, other than the rebellion?
Yeah, well, like as a foundational infrastructure piece of the rebellion.
You're not talking about the hit on
no, they wanted to establish a communications network,
right? Okay.
That allowed the rebel cells to communicate with each other. That was Luthen's primary goal.
I see. Okay, yeah.
So, in theory, inevitably he would reach out to Phoenix Squadron in some capacity.
Right.
You know. Now we also know that Phoenix Squadron gets reached out to by I can't remember who it was, but it's the dude that has the giant kind of triangle-shaped capital ship that has all the hangar bays.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember exactly which cell that is.
Right.
But presumably you could see Luthen meeting that guy and then getting them in touch kind of as like a shadow figure.
Yeah, so, you're totally right, because Phoenix Squadron is in cahoots with all of those, right? And Luthen and Mon Mothma are primarily the ones in charge, at least that we think for now. Who knows? So they'd have to start to communicate with those cells. Yeah, I see where you're going.
So between Wolf Yularen and the ISB inevitably involving Thrawn and Luthen's primary purpose. Well, and I should correct myself. I think Luthen was more aggressive. I think Mon Mothma's primary thought process was connectivity and funding.
Right.
Like get them in touch with each other, make sure they have the resources.
And she was definitely more shrouded, like what you were just talking about.
Exactly.
Like she was far more shrouded, and most of her time was spent trying to hide her dealings with the Empire, right? Like that's what she was really freaked out about, which was cool to see. I mean, like it was really cool to see these characters be humanized, right?
Absolutely. So I do think that those connections tie those two potentially in. I just, in general, I love the idea. I think you could do missions focused, and I think you could do it where these are these like critical moments. Like you look at something as silly as Mon Mothma's negotiations or Luthen on dealing with this particular issue. These are all like these pivotal, like kind of like moments where the entire rebellion was hanging on a knife blade,
right?
And how it went one way or another. And like, for instance, Saw Gerrera kind of plays an integral role because he has the Imperial pilot in Rogue One.
Right.
So what if Luthen sends Saw Gerrera into the ambush with that other dude?
Yeah.
And he ends up dying. Like all these moments are like these teeter moments for the rebellion where it could fall either way. And I like the idea of just having another season of like 3 or 4 pivotal moments like that.
Yeah.
That just kind of adds stakes to it all.
Right. And I think we already know that formula works in Star Wars because Clone Wars was exactly that. Like, how many episodes was in Clone Wars? First of all, I don't even know. There's so many.
25 a season. They had 6 seasons.
Yeah, there's an incredible amount.
Just a smooth 100.
I know, and like I could have used more. Like I loved it so much. Like, but my point being is those episodes were very much so just like small missions, and yeah, like, very frequently they'd tie other episodes in, or they do like 2 or 3 episodes in a row that was one mission. But as a viewer, I thought that was really interesting because then you get all these small little storylines inside of Star Wars, which really neat, right? And it just added to your backing and added it added even to like an overall feeling of like, okay, like is the needle moving towards separatists or towards like the Republic, or is the needle moving towards, the Jedi or the Sith as far as like who's gaining power, who's not. And I'd love to see them take, a small mission approach, as long as that somehow ties into the big picture, and as long as Thrawn's in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, to me, the Thrawn is such a no-brainer because if you look at the timeline of,
it's a no-brainer. You're exactly right.
You can have, because he would essentially his like intellect as this Sherlock Holmes Star Wars character makes so much sense as a foil for Mon Mothma and Luthen and what they do.
It would be glaring if Mon Mothma and Luthen were gaining all of this steam, and if Thrawn wasn't involved in that. It would not make sense for how well we know Thrawn and how integral he was in the Empire, and how much Palpatine depended on him.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And like, just in general, like if you look at the timeline of the releases, so we know in March that we are going to have Mandalorian Season 3.
Yeah.
That obviously doesn't entail us at all, but it's going to target, my guess is that in Mandalorian Season 3, you may have another Ahsoka cameo.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of cool stuff we're going to get into there maybe in the coming weeks where it's like, okay, is he going to take back Mandalore from the Imperial remnant? Is he going to do all these different things to restore his... Because I think he's got to go back there to regain his status within his sect of the Mandalorian religion. So there's that. But production, I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure production has already started on Ahsoka, this TV series. Presumably that will be coming out in the summertime. We know for a fact Thrawn will be involved there because that's literally how they teed it up in Mandalorian Season 2 when she confronts the magistrate and says, "Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?"
Right.
So we're going to meet Admiral Thrawn in some post-Imperial version, which is so freaking interesting to me.
Which is, and I think that's when Thrawn ends up being a good guy. Good guy Thrawn.
Yeah.
I hope so badly that Thrawn ends up being like it's just an obvious good guy character.
I want to cut this conversation off right here because this specific topic I want to get back into when you've finished the Ascendancy trilogy.
Okay.
Because like the manner in which he leaves the Ascendancy to join the Empire.
Spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody.
Well, first, the opening scene of the first Thrawn book is literally Thrawn saying like the Ascendancy has laid down their order. Exile is my sentence.
Him. Yeah.
Like you get it. But
I know.
So, but anyway, like that all happens and that frames this really well. So I want to come back to that at some point in the future after you've actually finished the book.
Because there's so many thoughts I have on that I would love to jump into and parallels with other characters of the past. So let's
meeting Thrawn post Empire over next summer in the Ahsoka series, then that fall going into Andor Season 2, it'd be so perfect to drop him in.
Oh, it'd be
in
awesome.
Imperial form.
It'd be incredible. And not only that, again, it would be a huge token that you and I get to enjoy, right? And all the other Star Wars nerds of the universe. But I people like our wives, I think, could get behind Thrawn's character. They'd be like, oh, this is like a really cool alien character. Like, this is really interesting, right?
Let's go even further off the rails here.
Oh, geez. Okay, here we go.
Okay, this is the one last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to get into Luke's take.
Which is not profound at all. It's just something that's bothered me for forever.
Is it within the realm of possibility that there is a TV series that is called Thrawn?
Sherlock Holmes. Thrawn's, I mean. Thrawn.
That is post him meeting Ahsoka that involves him fighting off the Grisk.
Oh, dude. It'd be incredible. And this is so funny because you and I, not long ago, were like, Star Wars needs to get out of this time frame. This is so boring.
But I want more
Get
Thrawn.
back. I know. I know, dude. That's why I'm making fun of us, is because like we were so not so critical, but we were definitely critical. And we were definitely saying that Star Wars needs to get out of this time frame and to get into other stuff. And to our offense, though, or defense, to our defense, that was post watching episodes 7, 8, and 9,
which
when we were
put
just
the most rotten taste in any human's mouth. Like,
I know. So yeah, so we'll leave it at that. But if we got into Thrawn live action or when,
like a full series,
yeah. I fully support that.
Oh, dude, like these...
Especially if they get Thrawn right. They have to get Thrawn right, because if they got it wrong, that would be excruciating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah.
It's still up in the air. I will say that I've enjoyed the Ascendancy trilogy even more than the original, and so I think you're really going to like it.
I'm enjoying it more, too.